What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the NH Experience. So, my guests are today. Normally, we have one guest, but because of everything that's been going on, I definitely want to get these two guys on my show. Have a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge and information, and then just have some fun as well. My first guest, he is the pastor of Crenshaw Christian Center, um, also the author of the book Behind the Scene, Pastor Fred Price. What's going on, man?
Chilling, man. Good to be with you, brother.
Appreciate it. And also, now, this man needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway because he's definitely a cornerstone of hip hop. He's the original member of the LBC crew that was started back in the day with Snoop Dogg. He's definitely has a great album out right now, The Blacklist 2 with him and Els. Also, has a plethora of information and knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, straight from Long Beach, California, Techniec. What's going on, bro?
What's good with your family?
Hey, man, thank you guys both for coming on, man. I know it's been a lot going on the last, week or two, so I appreciate you guys' time. So I wanted to get right into it. For those that don't know, I'm gonna start with Techniec first. I know you've been in the music industry for a very long time. You're still putting out great music. What has changed for you, climate-wise, when you're putting out music now? What has changed for you as far as being an MC? Do you feel like you have to approach the records differently? Do you feel like you have to just do singles versus back in the day where you could just put out whole albums? Like, what do you feel like the difference is as far as the consumption of music in today's climate?
Good question. Yeah, the way I feel it as far as the music game, we've come to the point to where, with technology and everything that's available at our fingertips, we come to the point to where, the music has to revolve and it evolves in real time. There's no real delay as before. You will wait 3-4 years for someone to do an album or a record, you know what I mean? And we sit the time of be standing still until that material is released. Now it's at a point now where everything is streamlined. The information is coming so fast, and as we're living it, we're able to document it and get it to the listeners directly to their ears. So I think that the technology has its advantages in that area, because again, as our hearts beat, so is the time ticking, and we're feeling these vibrations. That's when that it's resonating with the people.
No,
So that's just kind of my take on what I've seen has changed from the beginning. Like I said, it was like snail mail. You know what I mean? Now everything you could do it right from your fingertips. So with that, artists have to work a little bit more to feel the pulse and the vibration of the world, you know what I mean? Or, starting with their community, you know what I mean?
No, I think that's key. I think you brought up a great point about the community. That's something I want to bring, Fred into, because obviously you being a part of a church, obviously, the history of the Black church, being in the communities and things like that. How do you feel like, the church has differed from back in the day to where you are, what you have to do now? Do you feel like there's more work that has to be done, or is it a little bit easier with the age of technology to be able to disseminate the messages that you want to get out and be able to still be embracing the community?
So I think there was a sense of urgency then, and that sense of urgency, like it could still be here, but it doesn't seem to be as urgent as it was then. It was like more life or death. Like we as Black people, we're not being recognized as people in this country. So we need to march, we need to protest, etc. We march and protest today. I don't know if the impact is the same. Clearly this week there's been great impact globally, but I don't know if the urgency today is what it was then, because there's some complacency. We do see equality in some arenas of life where we didn't see it before. So I don't know if there's that feeling to where it's like we have to do this. But of course, like I said, the events surrounding George Floyd's death, I believe, have brought maybe that urgency back to the table or back to the forefront.
Let me ask Technique this question. What Fred was saying as far as the sense of urgency when it comes to technology, as far as getting the word out, especially from the Black church, and their involvement in what's going on in today's climate and how important that was. The thing I asked both of you gentlemen is the fact of what we've all experienced, what we've all seen, not just this week, this past week, but weeks prior, years prior, what we've all personally had to deal with as far as being Black men in this country. What are some of the things that what transformed you specifically, Tech, when it came to dealing with, racism, police brutality, injustice, things like that? What changed your mind as far as, okay, I got to make sure that my music reflects more to the people that I want to reach out to get the information across to them versus just being a regular rapper, you know what I mean? Just spitting bars and doing that.
Yeah. With that's an interesting topic and point. And I say that because when we hear even the term rapper,
Mm-hmm.
It's such a cliche term. It's something anyone can do, So then you have to break it down to why is one so-called rapping, you're a poet, you're a lyricist, you're an MC, you're a minister, whatever the case may be. Then it comes down to why are you considered these things? What is your point? Like, I've never been the type of MC. My life has been an experience. It probably could be documented, at least audio and visual, from the time I was 14 years old. So what I've always rapped on and spoke about was things that reflected either where I was at, something I came from, or somewhere I was intending to go, just based on, foresight, based on where we were at that particular moment in time, So it's again, as much in real time, you're hearing the sign of the times naturally. As we came up through adolescence and, we were introduced to, drug culture and gangbang culture and police culture and all of these things that were in our community that became the topic, now whether we certain things were so glamorous, we chose to glamorize it till we understand as you grow into a man, you start to understand cause and effect, and it's being blessed with the discernment to move and make decisions in life. You kind of learn from your good and your bad, and hopefully as a young boy growing into a young man growing into an adult, you will want to do better and not continue to repeat the same mistakes. So then that shapes the music. You start to reflect, and then you start to understand that this is a form of scripture. We have to be able to document these times, good, bad, or indifferent. When you read the Bible or any holy book, it's good, bad, or indifferent. The cause, the purpose is there. The gospel is the gospel, but it was some good truth and there's some ugly truth in every walk of life, and so when you translate that over to hip hop, it becomes the same thing. It's just like, I tell guys, I've heard like, hey man, you hear the language, and I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I get that, but do we get the message? Because sometimes the message could come from God through a foul mouth. Did you get that message? Exactly. These are the things that we kind of place into this is just kind of my mind frame when it comes down to the music and the MC. It's not just a one-sided thing, because if that was the case, then we'd be saying Tekashi 6ix9ine represents hip-hop. Right. Nah, that dude doesn't speak for all of the MCs and lyricists and rappers that exist in this thing,
No, I totally get you, man. I think it's important to piggyback off of that because, me, myself, Fred, we've all been fans of, yourself, others that, especially on the West Coast, watching the evolution of West Coast music. It has different sectors. And I think for me, I think the West Coast has always got a bad rap or not the respect that it deserves because all you see is one particular form of music. But you guys were able to expand it to a form of saying, no, we're not just everybody ain't gang banging, everybody ain't doing one thing. They're multi-dimensional, music artists that can talk about a multitude of things. Just because we're from the West Coast doesn't mean we're limited. And I think you guys did an excellent job of showing that as far as saying, okay, and then seeing, continue to watch your success and watch your growth. What allowed you, because I know you are a member of the Nation of Islam and you chose Islam as your faith. At what point did you realize that was going to be your turning point to join the nation and have Islam as your faith?
I believe that again, like I said, we live life in real time, and it's through the journey that you begin to make your decisions, and that journey is also a form of navigating through this physical existence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, what GPS system you use? Hopefully, all of these GPS systems are leading us to the right, to righteousness ultimately,
right.
And that's, as of right now, like the time that we're standing in, it was written in so much scripture in so many different places, it's common denominators is how I feel that you find the truth, and then, for me with Islam, dealing in mathematics and science, these are things that are, deemed as universal truths and a universal language and dialogue amongst men on every corner of this planet. When something don't add up, it don't add up, right? So I mean, when you're looking at it from that standpoint, for me, and where we come from, and those truths they just shot out, and I know, again, we all have our purpose. We all have our purpose, and hopefully we're blessed enough to find that purpose, and along these journeys, I believe that for me, once I got a thorough understanding of knowledge of self, and not only that, let's just be clear, I was raised in a Christian home. My grandmother is like, God next to God, in my eyes. So again, universal truths. I've gotten truths from Christians. I've gotten truths from Muslims. I've gotten truth from gangbangers. I've gotten truths from bums and drug addicts. You know what I mean? I've gotten real good knowledge from people of all over the planet. But my path that I chose is Islam for that sake. What is Islam? One of the translations is peace. What is a Muslim? One who submits his or her will to do God's will. And that's something that we strive for. You know what I mean? I understand the tag that everything has, propaganda's put stigma on so much. But when it comes down to knowing things for the genuine definition of what it is, then you strive to move in those directions.
So obviously we all grew up in the church. We all went our own ways. But, you and I, Fred, have definitely grown up in the church. I ended up dipping on my own path. But what made you stay with it? I mean, so many people come and go. But what was something real to you that made you stick with your faith in Christianity?
Researching and looking into things myself. I didn't want to just believe something because it's what I was raised to believe. I didn't want to believe it just because my grandparents or my parents believed it, or all the people that watched me grow up in the church believed it. It had to be real for me. So when I did my own research, I did my own digging, I did my own investigations, and I saw that, okay, yeah, there have been those that have perverted Christianity or perverted the gospel to do a number of things, subjugate people, etc. I didn't want to allow or cause a certain people group's interpretation of the scriptures to influence my belief in the faith. So me, it was just looking into it myself so that it could be genuine for me. I asked my father years ago, I said, Dad, how do we know we're worshiping the right God? How do we know we're in the right faith? And his answer was real basic. He said, you got to test it. You got to test them. So, you got to investigate and look into it for yourself so that it could be real for you. So that's what I did, and that's why I've remained. You know, there have been, you know, I get why some have departed, because all three of us know that certain people groups use the Bible for their own selfish reasons, and you know, definitely that has been a turnoff. I mean, it's been a turnoff for me as well, but I rather stay within and expose those lies. So that's what's worked for me.
So let me ask. This is a question for you both, and you know, either one can answer first. But what is the responsibility and the role in today's society, especially in the Black community, when it comes to Christianity, when it comes to the Nation of Islam, when it comes to the faith of that? So,
Tech, you want to go first, or?
Well, I mean, as far as the nation at this particular point, I'm not at liberty to speak on, you know, the direction or any, you know, any moves that's going on as far as the nation is concerned. However, I would say something that was taught um, by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, both on the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, is that just you must be wise, you know, pay attention, understand, you know, do knowledge, do the knowledge, do your research, um, seek out truth, you know, and then, you know, these are the main principles that we should be abiding by at this particular point. You know, we're dealing in a world where there's propaganda on top of propaganda. You know, you have those who are coming in peace that are being led astray by those who have more, you know, have other agendas. You know, where the political spectrum of this world is just blowing up right in front of us. You know, so everyone who has whatever intent they have, they're going to reveal themselves. This is the point of revelation that's written in the Bible. We're beginning. I don't know if we'll see the whole thing in our lifetime, but what we're seeing is we're seeing a change. It's a major evolution that's taking place. We're in the middle of a major zeitgeist at this particular point in time. So, you know, it's as far as just that knowledge and that information that I attained from the nation, we should be found striving to be righteous to self and to one another, you know. And if you are truly that, you know, it's like, you know, we're not in a space to be, you know, to where we're trying to agitate violence or go out and promote our people to go out and be, you know, to go out and act up. However, we understand the natural element and the natural emotions that exist. But be wise. Understand that there's many different enemies out there of many different people. You have, you know, black, white, you have sexist organizations that exist, you have anarchists, you have all of these different elements that now feel, okay, this is the time to get this thing going. And there's wickedness, there's evil that's coming from high places that's setting the stage for what a lot of our people are going to ultimately run into just by kind of moving too blind, you know, out here in this world. So I mean, I will share that because that's something that I strive to navigate with. That's something that I strive to, you know, educate my family and friends on. You know, you just be wise. You know, we can't, if you know 1+1 = 2, anything that goes beyond that, you must thoroughly question it, and even question the 1 and the 1 = 2. You know what I mean? But
right.
in the best manner. It's not about, you know, the hate and the vitriol that's driving this. Like even with this whole called racism thing, it's like, how long can you just sweep things under the rug? It's going to eventually, like, it's like I tell my children all the time, you say you clean up your room but you threw everything in the closet, eventually you're going to have to open that closet door. You know what I mean? These are the things that we're dealing with at this particular time. The door is open. It's a mess. It's a mess. And it's we're at an evolutionary time where, like, I seen a video, and I don't want to be long-winded with this, but I seen the video where they had the 3 different generations of black men, and they were all sitting there with the same frustrations from 16 to a 30-year-old to a soon-to-be 50-year-old. Like, guy was like 48 or something. I don't know if you guys peeped that.
Yeah, I
But
saw
they're
that.
all dealing with the same thing. So I'm looking at it like, yo, the circle of truth is said to be 360 degrees. We're right back at this point. It is what it is. You know what I mean? This is exactly what it is. This is where we're standing. This is a time that God has created for either you're going to wake up or you're going to die, or you could die woke. However it goes, we don't know the outcome. That's not for us to decide. However, we should be found and should strive to be found doing the things that we're supposed to. And I'm not saying that from a man with halo and angel wings. I'm saying that from one that's striving to get and stay on a good foot, so we could at least get our people to the other side as safe as possible. You know.
Absolutely. Right,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just briefly add, the church is supposed to be a safe haven. We're supposed to help heal the brokenhearted and defend those that have experienced injustice. I mean, that's what, Messiah intended for his people to be, a community of believers that, minister to those who are hurting. So that's one thing that we should be doing. But I would agree with Brother Technique on the wisdom element. A statement that Jesus said was be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. And so that means I need to be watchful. I need to be vigilant. I need to pay attention to what's happening. Pay attention to what's happening amongst my own people. Pay attention to what's happening amongst those in leadership and those that have the power. So being watchful, being vigilant, but at the same time, we're supposed to be ministering to the hurting ones, defending the defenseless, those that don't have a voice. We're supposed to give them that voice.
Definitely.
With everything that's going on, we see, Donald Trump basically has declared war on citizens that go against his agenda. I mean, we've seen countless times in Washington, D.C., people were protesting, people in L.A. being harmed by the police. Essentially martial law was put into effect to a degree with the curfews and things like that. What do we need to do as a community to get, I know we talked about, from the faith aspect, but in the physical realm or the economic realm or what have you, what are some of the things you feel like we need to do as a people to not, I don't feel like it's going to change. Like Technique said, I don't know, we're going to see this thing all the way out through in our lifetime, but to try to improve the quality of life instead of these people standing on the sidelines and just saying, okay, man, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this. What do we do to try to improve some things in our communities and throughout the world?
Well, okay. I would say that when you talk about what kind of actions, we can take, I'm of the same mindset where I don't know if we're going to see the change that we desire to see, in this day. Maybe not in our lifetime. Hopefully it comes, but Nick, there's a post that you put up, and I was in total agreement with it, where you mentioned that they have to fix it, and I'm paraphrasing, but like those with the power and those with the resources to fix it need to do something about it. Yet we all know they're not really interested in fixing those things and doing something about it. So, I don't want to discourage protesting and raising our voices, but sometimes it feels like it's just putting a Band-Aid on a wound. Sometimes it feels like it's just maybe a small battle or skirmish that we're winning, but we're still losing the war. And like I said, sometimes that's just how it feels. But it's still action. It's still doing something. It's still, people putting their hands to the plow. So, continuing on with that, I think it's important, for us as people, and even the leaders that represent us as people, the particular people that we are, the disenfranchised, the brokenhearted, etc. We need to be aware of or knowledgeable in, the Constitution and in the laws of the land, so that we can hold those in the highest seats of power accountable to, what the law says, so that they don't take advantage of things and do whatever they want, thinking most people are ignorant of that.
it's an interesting time, brother, because the reality of it is that, you know, even the law is lawless, you know, at its convenience. You know what I mean? Those that are in power, they utilize their power. That's what their generation strive for, to be in these positions of power. And now that they're in it, you know, that's when I believe, again, that God reveals himself. Because for one, God is not the author of confusion, I've been taught. Um, and also, everything in this entire universe is in obedience, with the exception of man at this particular point. So when we start dealing with, like, let's just say, you know, like weather changes and things of that nature, these are acts of nature. This is natural. When we get to the point to where, you know, people are, the humanity as a whole is fed up with the way things have been, because it's not natural, you know. And in your natural nature, I was, you know, read that ye are all God's children of the Most High God. So that means that we possess the temple of God. And you know, whether the churches are open, the mosques are open, whatever the case may be, you should be moving with that spirit of God, right? So with that being the case, is like, naturally people are waking up to the bullshit. Excuse my language. They're just waking up. We're all waking up. Some waking up a little bit faster than others, but if we're going to be, you know, blessed or cursed, however you're looking at it, to be here every day, you're going to have to wake up to the consciousness of what's going on.
No, I get you, man. It has to be done. I mean, one of the things that kind of irks me, man, especially, you know, when I see stuff in our community, when you see a lot of the white supremacists, when you see people that are racist or representing racist, you know, rhetoric, and we're so quick to forgive. Like, we're so quick to just accept them just by a simple apology. I mean, you look at the, you know, the Drew Brees situation, when what he said, the same thing he said 4 years ago when Colin Kaepernick took a knee for the same thing about peace and, you know, why he was doing it and so forth. And there's so many people in our community that just are so forgiving. The other side of it is the fact that people are actually riding with this dude at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, knowing how divisive and knowing how insensitive and misogynistic he is. How does that bother you to a degree where you're like, okay, dude, I can't rock with you? Or do you try to educate certain people on, you know, look, we can't rock this way. We need to make sure that we stay, like you said, we need to organize, strategize, and remain not in emotion, but remain using wisdom and intelligence.
As much as possible. As much as possible. Because I, you know, we definitely don't want to give off the impression that we're void of feeling. You're feeling things. But like I say, you know, we've been taught to really use your analytical mind, your analytical thinking, you know, not to allow our reactive mind to control us, because that's historically what's, you know, a large part of the black and the brown man's downfall, you know, of us allowing someone to, it's almost like it's the thing like bull baiting, like, you know what I mean? You get them to rile you up, and then you wind up putting yourself in great danger. You know what I mean? So once we identify those things, then now we can move a lot more. We can get organized, but you can't organize anything if we're all just playing with emotions. You know, or it's emotional thing, or, you know, I've lost family member, you know, and I've lost people very, very dear and close to me, and I try to pull that strength, you know, use that as my strength, that they're always with me to continue moving forward.
You know, Nick, you mentioned the white supremacist behavior, and us and those who look like us being quick to forgive. And it's like, well, I forgive when you apologize. So where does the apology come from? And is the apology genuine? There can never be real reconciliation unless there's first real recognition. And racism is here, and it's going to be here as long as we have. And I don't care what faith you follow. Everybody knows there's a devil, or there's an evil, and as long as evil is here, evils are gonna seep out of evil, and racism is one of those evils. And that's why it's really important for faith communities to be unified. It's important for faith communities to actively pursue people that are hurting and engage people that are hurting, because the system of the world, I'm sorry, it's governed by harbingers of evil. And Jesus said, don't be caught off guard. He said, see that you're not troubled, but these things must happen. And he talked about wars and rumors of wars and pestilences and famines and earthquakes. Right. These things must come to pass, but see that you're not troubled. So, like, on one hand, there's the frustration when you see repeated offenses of things that you feel like as a people we should be past. Then on the other hand, it's like you can't be surprised because there's a wicked one.
Right.
I mean, I look at it this way, and I totally understand both of you guys' point of view. A couple of things before I let you guys get on out of here. Voting. We always talk about the voting process. We talk about the political aspect. How important is voting to you, and on what level does it have importance? Because some people feel like, hey man, we can make a change at the polls when it comes to the presidency. Some people like myself feel like we have a lot more power on the state and local levels, where we can actually reach out to these politicians and demand, put their feet to the fire and demand certain things as our constitutional right. Where do you guys see on the voting aspect, and how could that improve the quality of life or way of life for us that live in our community?
When it comes to voting, I mean, I have mixed feelings about voting. Like even when I've voted, I've had mixed feelings about voting, because I just wonder, is it doing something? So I have that feeling. It's like it never goes away. But then I don't want to be somebody who complains and doesn't follow up the complaining with actions. Voting is one of those actions that can alter or change things that are so tempting to complain about. Then it's like vote. So I don't know. It's like a conundrum.
Mm-hmm.
I really do have mixed because I've seen votes that didn't do anything, and I've seen votes that did something.
Oh yes.
And that's I'm definitely with bro on that part, right? So as far to an extent, right? So it's like I'm partial on the whole voting. However, I see it from both sides, in the sense that if you're going to vote, you should know who you're voting for. You know what I mean? And a lot of times,
Say that one more time. Say that one more time, please.
I said, when you vote, you need to know who you're voting for. And a lot of times voting is being done based on hearsay. So then, we wind up getting this guy because we heard he was a good guy in there, and he winds up, having his a whole hidden agenda. But not to say that all politicians are bad. There's some with some good objectives and that really are for the people, for their state, or for their community. And so, they're not to all be lumped up in that sense. But I would say that, the way I'm seeing this world right now, as it pertains to, the so-called minorities, I believe that, with the influence that we have, and the economic power that we have, the numbers that we have as people, if the consensus is that we're dissatisfied with the way things are going, that power should be held and altered through action. And I think that that's the way to really change this whole thing, and I think that we are aware of that. I believe that there are a lot of us that have woke up, in a sense, that are aware of where the power lies, and that's the reason why we're standing in the space that we're at right now. It's just, again, some are a little bit more advanced than others. some of us are just catching up to certain things. You know what I mean? I
Right.
can say the set of lenses I have now, I may not have had 10, 15 years ago. You know what I mean? So I think that, you know, I believe that naturally this thing is going to come around. I believe that you can be influential at the polls, but we also can be just as influential as by staying away from from particular ones that, you know, could give these same, I would say, enemies of righteous cause an advantage over the people who are striving in the right direction. You know, because it's easy for now to paint the peaceful and the righteous who are just trying to be heard. Now they're being painted as villains, you know, in a lot of different outlets. You know what I mean? So the thing is, we have our power once we. This is just me speaking on it. Like we got the power. You know what I'm saying? We have the power, and whoever you consider got the biggest voice, the most credible voice, they need to be able to speak for that, you know, and get us to where we have to go. You know what I'm saying? I think it could be done, but again, I'm saying I'm balling it all up, but this is something that I believe is a lifetime, a whole nother lifetime worth of work, because it wasn't overnight that we got here. So it's been taking years. You know, we look at the nation, we about 90 years as far as in this work. And you know, there's forefathers and messengers and prophets from you know, this faith or that faith that's been giving us the real.
Yeah.
But we've all been governed by a world that when you look at it, it's like, damn, it's been one big illusion. Even everything's been hijacked. You know what I'm saying? Religion's been hijacked. You know what I mean? The music industry been hijacked. You know what I mean? The gang culture. You know what I mean? And it comes down to that dollar. That dollar is, you know, we go crazy over it. But I ain't never seen nobody look like me on none of them dollars.
Never will. None of us. None of us. I mean, you brought up a great point about economics, because one thing I said, in order for us to improve, again, I don't use the word change, because I don't change meaning it's going to manifest. I don't feel like it'll manifest, but I feel like it can improve somewhat. I've said we've had to organize and strategize in order, from an economic standpoint, political standpoint, and social standpoint. No matter what your religious faith is or background, we've all got to come together. We've seen in these marches, we had white kids marching with black people, marching with Latino people, gay, straight, whoever, because we're all fighting for the same thing, which is, hey man, wrong is wrong, right is right. And it's been going on too long for us, 400 years of us being, you know, put down, beat down, you know, against a whole system. And the one thing I like to admire about both of you guys is that you guys take your own individual stands in your own ways, but still make it known. One thing I want to ask Techniec. Now, you know I ain't gonna let you leave out of here without about the Blacklist 2. So we got to talk about Blacklist 2, man, because I think that's a phenomenal project. My favorite song is Nike's On. I turn that on in the car. That's what I roll to, man. I get up, I work out. That's one of the songs on my workout playlist. Is Nike's On. So talk a little bit about you and Els coming back together. Obviously, the original Blacklist, which was phenomenal. If you guys haven't checked that out, make sure you check it out on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you guys get your streaming music from. But Blacklist 2 kind of seemed like you guys took it to another level. What was the mindset going into Blacklist 2 for you and Els? And what did you want to create for the people?
Good question. The mindset for Volume 2 or Blacklist 2 was just simply to polish up everything we did on the first one. You know, we pretty much, the first one was kind of raw. It was real raw, you know. It was real like you know, live club DJ kind of feel, like a lot of live instrumentation and just, you know, that raw sound. You probably heard feedback and through certain instruments and everything, that was real feedback. But we were just throwing paint. We were just throwing paint around, you know, really creating material just out of thin air. Wherever the rhythm was taking us, that's where we were going. And so on 2, we kind of was able to harness that sound a little bit more and be a little bit more deliberate, in our attempts. And I like it for that. I think we wanted to broaden the spectrum as far as what our audience and our listeners were, but without compromising the message, without compromising the freedom of art. We were able to accomplish it. So I think the Blacklist, we definitely got a 3 coming for that. Okay. Just because we have a lot of material, and the one thing is with me and Els, when we do link up, it's like we'll just pick each other's mind. I'll throw things out there, and I'm talking about in real time. Like as we're conversating, we're creating. And before you know it, we'll have material done, and it's right there on the spot. So I think that was a good thing about the Blacklist experience. I want everybody to go and stream that, though. Make sure that y'all checking it out and giving us y'all feedback, on, what was dope or what was not so dope about it. We open for it.
I hear that, man. Now I got my man Fred Price Jr., who's actually an author behind the scene. So why write a book, why write a book about behind the scene? Why not write a book about life? I mean, we see so many people writing books about life. Obviously, mental health is an important issue as well. What inspired you to write that particular book and put it out where people started to gravitate towards it?
Dealing with the system that's behind the scene. And the scene, is, of course, is SEEN. So I'm talking about, the spirit world or the unseen realm, because there's activity that takes place there that affects the behaviors and activities that take place in the realm that we can see, the physical realm. So, just on top of being, a nerd for that kind of stuff, and always having an interest in, just the spirit world, just studying, that environment and that in a sense parallel universe. That was really the inspiration, and it was something that had been in me for a while, and and I desire to write other things, but I had a feeling that was always going to be the first thing that I wrote. So that's the inspiration behind it. I mean, stuff that I've been studying for like now going on 16 years.
How excited are y'all that the NBA is coming back? So at least we got something to watch, to cool out, to get away from the children, get away from the kids, maybe sometimes even the wife at times. How excited are y'all that the NBA is coming back, and then the NFL as well?
I mean, listen, Laker Nation all day. So there's never a time I'm not, excited about, seeing the purple and gold. Yeah, I mean, I hope COVID hasn't taken too much away from the experience that we're used to. That's my only concern. But I mean, outside of that, yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, I have to see it to see how it's gonna go. They're talking about it's gonna be virtual audience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, the fans feed off the players, man. You know what I'm saying, and vice versa. So that energy, man, like, but I mean, ball players love, to play ball. So as long as they got somebody on the court, they're gonna be able to get it in. I'm quite sure. But I mean, it's nothing like game day when it's really a whole, audience of people there that's taking part in rooting those teams on to meet and overcome. So that's the only thing that I'll be concerned about. But other than that, man, I mean, that's pretty much it, man. But we'll see. We'll see how this thing goes, man.
All right. So who you guys got winning it all, man? Who you guys have winning it all?
I'm going with the Lakers. As far as football, I ain't really tapped into that like that. Right. But I'm looking at the Lake Show, man, all day.
I'm looking at the
win, lose, or draw.
I think LeBron is going to put everyone on his back. COVID even interfered with our mourning for the loss of Kobe. So I think that motivation though is still there, and that drive is still there to to win it for the Mamba. So
it's like letting lions out of cages, man. It's about to be to be intense.
Exactly.
Y'all seen LeBron training, man.
Yeah,
Like he's ready.
right.
Yeah, man.
It's
It's gonna be interesting. Like I said, you gotta watch out for the Lakers. The Clippers are coming. You're gonna have a healthy Kawhi Leonard, a healthy Paul George, a healthy Patrick Beverly and company. So the only thing I regret is the fact that we won't get a 7-game series in LA. The hallway series that we've all been waiting on for the last 20 years won't be at Staples Center. So that's the only setback that I don't like, because I want to see 2 LA teams go out. I think it'd be great for the city. It'd be great for basketball as a whole. That's the only thing I'm upset about a little bit. But I don't know, man. I think whoever wins that 7-game series in the Western Conference Finals between the Clippers and Lakers, I think they win it all. So I don't know if it's going to be the Clippers. I don't know if it's going to be the Lakers, but definitely going to be.
Man,
you're not concerned about Milwaukee?
You know it's going to be. Stop it. Biased. Stay biased.
No,
I cover both teams, man. So I see both teams, man. That defense, that Clipper defense, when they lock in, it's a trapper for real. I can't deny, but I mean LeBron James, Anthony Davis, those boys are tough, man. And I mean, I'm not worried about the East. You talked about the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, the Bucks got to worry about the Miami Heat. They got to worry about the Boston Celtics, and they have to worry about the Toronto Raptors. Everybody slept on the Raptors after the departure of Kawhi Leonard. So, you know, Milwaukee may not have a cakewalk getting to the finals. Just saying. But we'll see.
Like Tech said, I can't speak on NFL right now. I don't know who I'm locked into.
Yeah, that's gonna be very, very interesting. But I could thank both of you gentlemen so much, man, for coming on the show. I really appreciate your points of view and your introspective thought and speech. I really appreciate it. I think this was a conversation that needed to be had. You know, and make sure that you guys go download, subscribe, get your music, Blacklist 2, get the original Blacklist for my man Techniec. Also, make sure you go get the Behind the Scene, brand new book by Pastor Fred Price Jr., talking a little bit about the physical and mostly about the spiritual realm. So good read. Got plenty of time to do that. So make sure you go cop that book. Thank you so much for tuning in. That's all we got for today, man. So appreciate you both. And
appreciate y'all, man.
Yeah,
pleasure, man. Matter of fact, Tech, let everybody know where they can follow you on social media. My fault.
TECHNIEC. That's at TECHNIEC on all social media platforms. And blockrebel.com. That's BLOCREBEL.com. You can get straight to our music. You can get straight to our social sites. You can get you some merchandise and represent the starter fist and the mic.
All right, man. Black Rebel, man.
Peace.
Black Rebel, man. And Fred, let everybody know where they can find you, man, and keep up with you on social media.
Twitter and Instagram at Fred Price Jr., Facebook, Frederick K. Price Jr., and website, thematrixoftruth.com.
All right, there you have it. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Be safe. We'll talk to you, everybody.
Yes, sir. All right, Nick.
Absolutely. Pleasure.